weeks ago we spoke about the concept of hijrah, because the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it occurred in the month of Safar. So we were reflecting on that historic journey and also the concept of hijrah in our times. And we mentioned that there are advantages and disadvantages of doing hijrah from the West to Muslim lands, and that the Sharia requires us to look at the benefits and the harms, and then to choose the option which is akhaffu dararain, the lesser of the two evils. When you have two difficult options, you choose the one which is less harmful and more beneficial. And we mentioned that the famous Muslim scholar Ibn Hajar Asqalani rahmatullah alayh, he wrote that if you can ishharu dinihi wa ada'u wajibatihi, if you're living in a non-Muslim land as a minority, but you're still able to practice the essentials of your faith and the wajibat, فَمُسْتَحَبَّةٌ, then the hijrah is only mustahab, it's not compulsory. And we have many reasons to be optimistic. Some of our teachers who converted to Islam in the 1970s, they said that although things seem difficult nowadays, in the 70s and 80s when we converted to Islam, it was very difficult for us compared to 2023 to find halal food. It was difficult to find local masajid down south in Cambridge. It was difficult to find literature on Islam in the English language. So in the last few decades, there has been an amazing progress of the Muslim community in Britain in terms of the masajid that we have, the literature available, the translation of books from Arabic to English, the halal food, and the population of the Muslims itself, from 2.5 million approximately, according to the 2011 census, to now almost 4 million. We now have almost 4 million Muslims in the UK. So, at the current rate of converts, there are approximately 100,000 converts to Islam. This is according to a 2018 report by the University of Cambridge. At the current rate of the Muslim migration, the birth rate, and also the converts to Islam, Islam will be, or the Muslims will be the majority within the next 50 to 60 years. So there are many reasons for us to be optimistic. And we mentioned also that we shouldn't be too negative, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he mentioned that the Europeans will be the majority in the final days, and his famous companion Amr ibn As, he mentioned that there are 5 beautiful qualities of the Europeans that make them be dominant in the world. 5 qualities Amr ibn As identified in the Europeans, he praised them for, which is إِنَّهُمْ لَأَحْلَمُ النَّاسِ إِنَّ فِتْنَةً. That whenever there is a fitna, a tribulation, the Europeans are the most tolerant, they are the most patient, the most firm and calm during a fitna. And number 2, وَأَسْرَعَهُمْ إِفَاقَةً بَعْدَ مُصِيبَةً. Amr ibn al-As, the famous Sahabi, conqueror of Egypt, he said that the Europeans are the quickest to recover from a musibah, from any calamity, whether it's a natural disaster, the coronavirus, and so forth. The third quality Amr ibn al-As, he identified in the Europeans that will make them the majority, the powerful people at the end of times, is وَأَوْشَكُهُمْ كَرَّةً بَعْدَ فَرَّةٍ. That whenever they are defeated in war, they are the quickest to recover. وَخَيْرُهُمْ لِمِسْكِينٍ وَيَتِيمٍ وَضَعِيفٍ. And the Europeans, Amr ibn al-As said, that they are the best of people towards the poor, the orphans, and the needy. And then the fifth quality, he said, وَخَامِسَةٌ حَسْنَةٌ جَمِيلَةٌ. The fifth quality in the Europeans is very beautiful. وَأَمْنَعَهُمْ مِنْ ظُلْمِ الْمُلُوكِ. That the Europeans are the best at stopping people from oppressing their leaders, and they are the best and most outspoken in stopping their leaders from oppressing their people. The freedom of speech that they allow to keep the leaders in check. This is a quality that Amr ibn al-As very much he loved. And then we also mentioned that it's our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was asked what type of hijrah is the best, he did not say the best type of hijrah is to leave a non-Muslim land and go to a Muslim land. He said the best hijrah is أَن تَحْجُرَ مَا كَرِهَ رَبُّكَ. That the best hijrah that's most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to do hijrah, migration from those habits that your Lord dislikes. So when you're in your home, whether you're in a Muslim land or a non-Muslim land, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he hates anger, He hates people who curse, He hates people, or He hates the qualities of cheating, lying, backbiting. So our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best hijrah is to leave your bad habits, to migrate from your bad habits. And again he was asked, what is the best type of jihad? And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best type of jihad is to do jihad against your own nafs. We all have shortcomings, we all have flaws. Some of us are bad-tempered, some of us use bad language, some of us are into gossiping, we are into wasting time, being lazy. Whatever your ego is dominating you with, to do jihad against your own nafs, that's the best type of jihad according to our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in this regard, there is also a hadith, although the scholars dispute the authenticity of the hadith, but many scholars accepted it, that our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that once he returned from a battle and he said to the Sahaba, Raja'na min al-jihad al-asghar ila al-jihad al-akbar. We have returned from the small jihad to the great jihad. Meaning that this army that you faced now, that was a small jihad. Now you've come back to Medina. Now you're going to do al-jihad al-akbar, the great jihad, which is every moment of your life striving and struggling against your ego. So I'm glad also that last week or the week before, somebody asked me for the reference of this hadith, where Umar bin As, he mentioned the 5 qualities of Europeans. And I would like to say here that there's nothing wrong with asking a scholar out of curiosity that I found this hadith you mentioned very interesting, or this quote, can you give me the reference, or can you explain a bit more to me? It's a very good thing. It shows that people are actually listening. So the good thing as well is when you go back and you find the reference for somebody who's interested in this, that you learn more about it. So when I went and found and gave this reference to this individual who was sat here 2 weeks ago, I also found that this hadith where it said Sahih Muslim, when Umar bin As, he mentions 5 good qualities of the Europeans, then I found that Qadi Iyad, the famous medieval scholar who lived in Muslim Spain, Qadi Iyad, he said in the medieval times that these qualities, the 5 qualities of the Europeans, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that they will manifest at the end times before Qiyamah, which will make them dominant all over the world. Qadi Iyad in the medieval times, he said that these qualities in the Europeans have already manifested in my time. And that was in the medieval times. So he thought Qiyamah was very close now. He said that the Europeans are the dominant force in the world right now because they have these 5 positive qualities which our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam identified in them. And now we are all affected by our circumstances and what's going on around the world. So Qadi Iyad, he spoke positively about the Europeans. But Imam al-Qurtubi, who lived roughly around the same time, the famous commentator of the Quran, Imam al-Qurtubi, he had a difficult time with the Christians of Spain. And I mentioned previously that he was about to be killed by them. He was chased into a forest by Christian knights and they were going to kill him. So Imam al-Qurtubi, he mentioned that he started reciting verse 9 of Surah Yasin, وَجَعَلْنَا مِن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ, that we have put an invisible barrier in front of them and behind them so they can't see you. He started reciting this ayah, and the Christian knights, when they came into the forest, they walked past him many times and they could not see him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Imam al-Qurtubi invisible to the Christian knights. So because he had these negative experiences, Imam al-Qurtubi, he actually says that the Europeans of my time, they do not have these 5 beautiful qualities. They have left these qualities and there's nothing good in them. So it's interesting to know as well that the scholars, they are affected by the circumstances of their life and they will comment on the Quran or the Hadith according to their own circumstances and life experiences as well. Now, again, going back to the concept of jihad and hijrah, I mentioned previously that when somebody was coming for the first time to the UK, they were blessed with a beautiful vision of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in terms of the good qualities of the Europeans, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was stood with this person when they were coming to the UK for the first time, and he was looking towards Britain, and I mentioned previously that he referred to Britain as Ard Mubarakah in the dream, that this is a blessed land, a Mubarak land. But he also said that this is Ard Ma'raka. Now the word Ma'raka in Arabic, it means a war, a place of a clash of ideas. So yes, this is a blessed land, but also we do have this clash of ideas. Things like the LGBT and so forth, we have certain challenges. There's a clash of ideologies between Islamic values and Western secular liberal values. But inshallah, and in this dream, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was wearing, he was dressed like a soldier. He was wearing armor. So this is also a message to us as well, that we should stay here in this Mubarak land, as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam called it. But we are also, we have this ma'raka, we have this clash with the people, certain people, where they are trying to impose secular liberal values on us, and we have to prepare ourselves with the right sort of arguments, the right sort of logical arguments to convince them that the way of Islam is more better for them. But as I mentioned, that there are over 100,000 converts to Islam in this country, and if we want Islam to continue to spread and we want to win this battle of ideas, then what's very important for us is to present our deen in a moderate manner. One of the things that puts people off Islam is the extremism, the hatred and the intolerance shown by many Muslims towards them. The intolerance, there was a lady who converted to Islam and she was sat in a masjid and she was using her prayer beads. An extremist came up to her and he snatched the prayer beads, the tasbih, from her hands, and he broke it and he said, "This is a bid'ah. This is not allowed in Islam." And this kind of extremism put her off so much that she left the faith of Islam altogether. This type of extremism, which is caused by the ignorance of certain Muslims, it puts people off Islam. Now, as we are approaching the month of Rabiul Awwal, we need to remember that our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he described this deen as a deen of balance, a deen of moderation, which is free from every type of extremism, hatred and intolerance. That we hate the action of certain people. We hate the act or the belief of shirk, but we don't hate the mushrik. We hate the act of the LGBT community, but we don't hate them as people. So we have to remember this and stay away from all types of extremism and intolerance. And the ulama, they say that the more one learns, the more that one becomes educated about Islam, that as your ilm increases, simultaneously your rahmah should increase as well. So we see that amongst the true scholars, the scholars of Al-Azhari University, for example, which is the leading Sunni university in the world, that when their ilm increases, their tolerance, their moderation, their rahmah, their mercy towards people increases as well. And their flexibility with regards to the laws of the Sharia. When you are studying with one teacher, one imam in a particular institution, a village in India for example, and you study just a few dozen books, you become very rigid. But when you go to Syria, to Yemen, to Al-Azhari University, to Morocco, and you are exposed to a wider curriculum, that what the Shafi'is said about a certain hadith or certain ruling, what the Malikis said, what the Hanbalis said, and you are exposed to wider scholarship, different opinions on the tafsir of a certain verse, different opinions in the sharh and the commentary of a certain hadith, then you become more tolerant as you become more knowledgeable, and your mercy increases, and you are moderate, and you stay away from extremism. And when you present Islam, you stay away from extremism and promoting and trying to force very harsh and rigid rules upon people. So if we want the deen to spread in this Mubarak land, and we want this land to not be a land of hijrah, but rather we want it to become Darul Islam over the next 50 years to 100 years, we have to be careful that we don't attack people's culture, that we don't attack them as individuals, that we don't hate them, and that we don't show any sort of intolerance and extremism, that we present Islam in a balanced and moderate way. Now, as we're coming towards the month of Rabiul Awwal, one of the scholars, he wrote a very beautiful comment in regards to our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a medieval scholar. He wrote that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be born on a Monday in Rabiul Awwal, in the spring season. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have caused our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be born on a Friday, which is after the ayyamikum, the best of days, as is mentioned in the hadith. Now why Friday is the best day? Fihi khuliqa Adam. Because Adam alayhi salam was created on this day. Humankind came into existence on Friday. That's why it's an Eid. It's better than Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, because it's when humans came into existence. But this scholar from medieval times, he mentions that the wisdom in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causing our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to be born on a Monday is because in a authentic hadith, it's a lengthy hadith in which our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
created different things on different days. So the hadith mentions that on Saturday Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created such and such, on Sunday He created such and such. On Monday, the hadith mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Monday He caused greenery, the trees and the plants to grow for the first time ever on a Monday. And the Shaykh, he mentions that when you look at greenery, it makes you happy, calm and tranquil. And this is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam presents to us. To mankind, He's a breath of fresh air. The way that you feel happy when you're stressed out, when you're angry, and you go for a pleasant walk and you're amongst greenery, you feel happy and calm and tranquil. That's what He sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He presents to humankind. And that's why Allah made Him be born on a Monday, because that's the same day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made greenery in nature come into existence. And then, talking about moderation, the Shaykh goes on to mention that the spring season is the most balanced of the 4 seasons. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wanted to, He could have made our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam born in the winter. But the winter is very cold and harsh, and the summer is often too hot. I was in Egypt in the summer and it is unbearably hot. So the spring season is the most balanced of the 4 seasons. And this is when life starts to blossom after the cold and harsh winter. And this is what our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is what he represents to humankind. So we have to remember, as we are coming up to the Rabiul Awwal month, think about the fact that Rabiul Awwal is the most balanced of seasons. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's the season in which life blossoms. And this is what our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he represents to us. And he was the prophet of balance and moderation, free from extremism and intolerance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in the Quran, He says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. That Allah says that this ummah, He has made us the most balanced and moderate of nations. There are no extremes in Islam as there are in Christianity. In Christianity, for example, you have people who are monks who go to extremes and cut themselves off from life and live like monks and hermits, and the same in Buddhism as well. Islam is free from that kind of hermit lifestyle. And likewise in Judaism, they've become so secular in many cases, so materialistic. And Allah is telling us, you are ummatan wasata, you are the balanced and moderate nation of the balanced and moderate prophet who was born in the most balanced and moderate of seasons. And we know as well, or we should know, the famous hadith where there were 3 individuals who came to our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wives and they asked about his ibadah, and they found it to be quite moderate. And one of the Sahaba said that I will never get married. He went to an extreme and said, I'm not going to have any happiness of marriage, the pleasure of intimacy and so forth. I will never get married. And the second one said, I will pray all night, every night. And the third one said, I will fast every single day. And when our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam found out about this, he was angered by this. And he said that my way is the way of moderation. I sleep during the night, and then I wake up and pray during part of the night. I do get married to women. Yes, I lower my gaze, but I get married as well. And I fast some days, and some days I don't fast. And then the famous words, فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Anybody who deviates from my sunnah of balance and moderation, free from intolerance and hatred and extremism, فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. He has nothing to do with me. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us to stay moderate and balanced in how we present Islam, how we act upon Islam, and how we present it to our non-Muslim friends and neighbors. If somebody wants to be more strict, they can be strict on themselves. But as scholars, a wise scholar, if he wants to be strict, he can pray more on his own, he can fast more and so on. But on people, he has to be, if he's a true scholar, he should be moderate and balanced. And we know that the famous Sahabi Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he once led the Salah and he recited Surah Al-Baqarah in one of the rakats. And some people broke off the Salah and they left it. And they complained to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we have work in the morning, we have to plow the land and so forth. And our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was really angry with Mu'adh ibn Jabal. And then the narrator, he mentions that I have never seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam more angry than he was on that day. And he rebuked Mu'adh ibn Jabal, and he said that if you want to pray longer, you do that in your house. But with people, you present Islam in a balanced and moderate way. Recite short surahs like Surah Shams, Surah Ad-Duha. And so the ulama, they say, and some mention that it's a hadith as well, Khairul umuri awsatuha. Khairul umuri awsatuha, that the best of things, any matter that you have, Khairul umur, everything the best is awsatuha, that which is balanced and moderate. So whenever you have options, don't go to any extremes, to one extreme or the other, stay in the middle. Your Messenger ﷺ was born on Monday in Rabiul Awwal, which is the most balanced of seasons. So we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us to be balanced and moderate and follow His sunnah in staying away from any sort of extremes, inshallah.